What is up, sports bettors? Welcome to Guys and Bets on this, the 5th day of February. Andrew Avery here with Joe Osborne, who is kindly sitting in for Johnny Oddshark today. Today on the show, we're going to talk about a ton of things, specifically UFC 234. Joe's got some picks and insight for that. We've got Chris Abbott, who is back with NHL Quick Picks, as he is every Tuesday here on the show. And Joe will be talking his strategy for betting NBA player props, specifically point totals, so you don't want to miss out on that. But this being the first show after Super Bowl 53, and just want to thank you guys again for everyone that tuned in and joined us for the live broadcast on Super Bowl Sunday. But Joe, what's your reaction on Super Bowl 53?
It sucked.
Right?
However, I remain captivated right up until the very end. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I bet on the game.
That's right, Joe.
That's a great thing about sports betting.
Exactly. Sports betting, good enough to make the worst games thrilling.
Sure.
And anybody that had the Pats, congratulations. I had Pats money line, but I also had the over. So congratulations to
I live
all
bet
you.
the over.
Did you?
In the second quarter. How did that work out for me?
What was the number?
I think it was like 42.5, so only about 30 points shy.
Tough slog that game, but again, congrats to anybody that took home a little cash watching Super Bowl 53. Now, Joe, on the show, we do something called Tonight's Bites, where we look at 3 games across the board here on Tuesday night. And let's start here in the NBA. Big game in the East, Joe. Raps at Sixers. This opened Sixers -5. Moved to 2.5 with news that Raps point guard Kyle Lowry would be in the lineup. Now sits at 3 at most shops, but there are still some 2.5s out there. Raps 0-5 straight up and ATS in their last 5 road games within the division. What do you like here? What's your play?
I'm on the Sixers spread, and this one's all about the home-away splits. The Sixers are one of the best home teams in the league. They're 21-5 straight up. They rank 3rd in field goal and 3-point percentage, 3rd in rebounds, 4th in point margin. The Raptors are on a really awful slide on the road, 2-10 against the spread in their last 12. They ranked 25th in field goal percentage during that stretch. Philly beat them by 25 in their most recent game before Christmas. A big issue with the Raptors, inconsistent rotation. I know Lowry's back in the lineup, but him and Leonard have only started 28 of 54 possible games together. Philly's completely healthy. Give me the Sixers.
Let's go to the ice now. We got the Knights at the Lightning. Tampa Bay's chalk here, of course. Knights losers of 4 straight and 5 of 6. Lightning have won back-to-back games, but the under has been a story. Cashed in 6 of their last 7, but you're looking at something else.
Yeah, I think the Lightning win the game, but I'm 100% chasing a trend here. I'm going with the first period over in this game. Tampa Bay is the #1 first period over team in the league. It's hit in 40 of their 52 games, 23 of their last 27. They're the highest scoring home team in the NHL. And Vegas is off to a bit of a rough start on their Southeast road trip. They've allowed 8 goals in 2 games. So give me the over again. It's just printing money.
Yep. College hoops, NC State at UNC here, Joe. UNC opened as 10-point favorites, but that's moved basically 11 across the board here. Of course, State is coming off that horrible 24-point performance over the weekend. UNC has won 5 straight after losing to Louisville and has covered the number in 4 straight. What's got your eye here?
There's a lot of red flags for NC State in this game. First of all, they're averaging 20 fewer points in conference games. They're allowing 8 more points on the road. The Tar Heels have been awesome at home. In their 9 home wins, they've won by an average of 22.5 points. They're the #1 rebounding team in the nation, so I think they own the paint, they own the boards, and I like them to cover the big spread here tonight.
There you go. Joe Osborne, 3 picks from the NBA, NHL, and college basketball on this Tuesday edition of Tonight's Bites. Now, with football over, Joe, attention now shifts to basketball, both college and the NBA, of course. And one thing you're doing a lot lately is hitting your NBA player prop picks.
That's going well.
So make sure you all follow Joe on Twitter, of course, at JTFOZ if you don't already, because he does tweet some incredible stuff daily. But Joe, what I want you to do here is to talk about your process, your thought process, your capping about betting NBA player props.
Sure. Here's what I like to look at. So how does the opposing team defend that position? So how many points do they allow to opposing guards, to opposing centers? What type of field goal percentage, three-point percentage do they give up? How many free throws do they typically allow to that position? Against centers, do they allow a lot of points in the paint, a lot of offensive rebounds? How has a player performed recently? If he's hot, keep going. If he's in a slump, you might want to look away. Has he played that team this season? How did he do? If he lit them up, maybe he'll lit them up again.
Yep.
Injuries to teammates that will allow for more minutes and more shot attempts.
Sure.
Of course, injuries to the opposition. Maybe one of their best defenders is out and might screw up their backcourt or front court rotation.
Yep.
And one of the best tips, shop around for these. Most books usually have different numbers for these, usually a point or 2 points higher or lower. And a lot of these are often decided by a point or two. So those are my tips for player point total props.
So is there anything on the board tonight here as we sit here on Tuesday, anything that's got your eye in terms of player point props?
Absolutely. There is one that I love that is on the board tonight. It's Jaylen Brown, and he's been absolute money in the spot with Kyrie Irving out of the lineup. He's averaging 18.48 points. That's 5.8 points more than a season average when Kyrie is out. Just a week and a half ago, he scored 23 versus Cleveland. And over their last 15 games, the Cavs have allowed the second most points and the highest field goal percentage to opposing guards. So it looks like a recipe for an over right there.
Perfect. Beautiful stuff. Now, we talked a little bit off camera, and we didn't talk about adding this to the show, but it's a fascinating stat. We talked about this earlier this morning here at Oddshark headquarters. Tell the folks at home about that Kemba Walker stat.
Kemba Walker, yeah, it's one of these like stupid trend, right? On Saturdays, Kemba Walker is absolutely going off. I think he's averaging around 23.5 points a season, but in 10 Saturday games, he's averaging around 32 points.
Yeah.
So I played him recently this past Saturday, and he went off for 38 points. So Kemba really he lights it up
on Saturday.
On Saturday,
9-point difference.
Maybe before he goes out to the club, he likes to go off. Something to brag about to the ladies, perhaps. But yeah, Kemba Walker on Saturday. So he plays this Saturday as well.
Yeah, it's a great little nugget of info. So great stuff there from Joe on capping NBA player point totals specifically. Those of you that do follow Joe on Twitter know that he's a big UFC guy as well. UFC 234 coming up this weekend. A couple interesting fights on the card here, Joe. And I want to get your thoughts and your picks on a couple of them, but I want to start with Kelvin Gastelum at Robert Whittaker. Whittaker, sizable favorite here. New Zealander 21-4. Gastelum comes in at 16-3 with 1 no contest. What should the folks at home be betting on this one?
So me and you sat here about 5 weeks ago, and I picked Amanda Nunes to upset Chris Cyborg, and that all started with a bit of a feeling that I had.
Yep.
I have a feeling, once again, I'm picking Gastelum to upset Whittaker. I think he matches up with him very well. Gastelum, he's one of these guys, he's chronically undervalued. He has some really big wins.
Yep.
And I think people do undervalue him a bit because he's a bit undersized for the division. Maybe he's a bit soft in the midsection, if you want to discuss the male physique a little bit here. But ultimately, I think his striking is on the same level. He absorbs less punishment. I think he can make an argument that he also has the grappling edge. So I'm seeing him at as high as plus 200 at some books.
Yeah,
even
around
higher
2-1.
At a few others. So I'm going with Gastelum in this one. I like him to pull off the upset.
So let me ask you this. Whittaker is a New Zealander, but he lives and trains in Australia where UFC 234 is being held. Is there no sort of, quote, home field advantage here for Whittaker? Does that play into effect like a sport like UFC?
See, that's something that's a long trip for Gastelum to travel over to Australia, but it's the opposite of what you would think. So in the history of the UFC traveling to Australia for cards, Aussies versus non-Aussies in Australia are 41, 43 in one lifetime.
Wow.
The most recent UFC card in Australia, Aussies went just 1-7 versus non-Aussies. So, yeah, so if you're picking Whittaker just solely based on that, don't.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Second fight here I want to talk about is Israel Adesanya Adesanya against Anderson Silva. Now, Adesanya comes in as huge favorite here, 15-0, coming off TKO of Derek Brunson at UFC 230. Silva, 1 win, 4 losses, 1 no contest in his last 6 fights. Coincidentally, Silva's last win also came against Brunson, but that was pretty much 2 years ago to the day. What do you got for the folks in this fight?
Well, I like Adesanya to win the fight, but there's no value in just taking him to win straight up. But one bet that I do really like for this fight is, will the fight complete 2 rounds? And you can get yes at even. The reason I like yes and for the fight to complete 2 rounds is that I think the first round will be a bit of a feeling out process. Anderson, he's much more of a counter striker. He might be a little bit rusty after his 2-year layoff, but it's not like the guy is a complete and total punching bag. He's only been knocked out by 1 man in the UFC, Chris Weidman, as people might recall. Plus, I think there's a chance that maybe Adesanya shows Silva a little bit too much respect. Silva is the GOAT in many people's eyes, so Adesanya might cause him to be a little bit hesitant. So I think that he ultimately wins the fight, but I think it will get through 2 rounds, and I love that bet at even money.
Beautiful. Great stuff there for UFC 234 coming up this weekend. Now, Joe, Johnny and I talked briefly about Super Bowl 54 odds after the game on Sunday. And we've got the Pats as faves now at plus 650 with the Rams at 7-1, Chiefs and Chargers 8-1. That's your top 4 as we sit here right now. Does anyone jump out at you on the futures board here? And your Dolphins are dead last at 300-1, FYI.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affair for us Dolphins fans, but I think they got the right guy head coach, and maybe they'll end up getting Murray at quarterback. Maybe we need a little bit of excitement here in Dolphins country. But in terms of value, the 2 teams that are popping out to me are the Texans and the Seahawks.
Okay.
The recipe is there for both teams. As we know, they both made the playoffs this past year. They both have awesome quarterbacks. Seattle has pretty good coaching. You can't really say that about the Texans. The AFC South is still wide open. So if the Texans,
do you think, even after the season that Indy just put together?
I think it's still wide open, The Texans have to make some adjustments. They have to improve their offensive line. That should be their #1 priority in the draft. They're going to get Will Fuller back at wide receiver. So they do have to make some tweaks, but I also like the Seahawks. That was a team that a lot of people wrote off, and a lot of people said they're going to be a gigantic disappointment. It was the complete opposite of that. They surprised a lot of people, and they have the new Legion of Boom back there in the secondary. And Russell Wilson, he's just awesome, right?
Yeah, he wins football games.
So at 40-1, I'm not predicting that either of these teams will win the Super Bowl, but if you want to take a flyer on a team that has a realistic chance, Texans or Seahawks.
How about, what do you think of the Cleveland Browns, 30-1?
I think that they're going to get overvalued. I think that the Browns will have a good season. I think that they'll probably finish above 500 for the first time in a very long time. But Cleveland's one of these like darling teams. Everyone kind of rooting for them, jumping on the bandwagon. Baker Mayfield is a very likable guy. So, of course, I think that they'll have a good season, and they might sneak into a wild card spot. But I won't be betting them to win the Super Bowl.
Anybody on the board that, has a little bit, their prices are too short, perhaps overhyped near the top of the board?
I think the Steelers are a gigantic.
16-1, Joe.
They're a ripoff. So they have higher odds than 5 teams that made the playoffs this year. I think their odds are basically just based on reputation. We know Ben Roethlisberger is getting older and worse. Mike Tomlin's probably on his way out. He didn't have a good season as a head coach. And the Antonio Brown, that's just a disaster. Are they going to be able to trade that contract?
I wouldn't mind taking him in San Francisco, I can tell you that much. We need all
Throw Jimmy G under the bus.
We need all that help at wide receiver we can get. Super Bowl 54, of course, a year away, but it's never too early to start thinking about betting the NFL.
For the Super Bowl 54 matchup, Chiefs versus Bears.
Chiefs, Bears. So the Bears were 13-1 on Sunday. They're now 12-1 here as we sit here on Tuesday. I don't mind that. You trust Trubisky?
Well, he got, from his rookie year to second year, he got better. So I think we'll see more improvements. And I think they got that experience of their first playoff game under their belt,
Sure.
kind of like the Rams.
Yep.
The Rams, their first playoff game under McVay, they lost to Atlanta, you'll recall, a home game.
Yeah.
So I think they got that under their belt. I think that will help them. So I think the Bears, their defense is just incredible. If they can get home field advantage, man.
Yeah, I don't mind that matchup. Yeah, Chiefs, man, they're going to be exciting next year. I was watching that game.
They should have been in the Super Bowl. Edelman, there's no evidence that shows that Edelman did not touch the ball or did touch it. Remember the punt?
Yeah.
When was that, the third quarter?
Wow.
That would have changed the entire game.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm still bitter about that, damn it. I picked the Chiefs and I put money on them, but I got it back by betting on the Patriots.
Yeah, I had a sinking suspicion that the Chiefs and Saints would have been a much better Super Bowl.
I think so.
Like, we won our side, so
I think one of them would have scored more than 3 points.
I don't think so.
3 points, that ties the fewest points the Patriots allowed all season. They allowed 3 points to the Jets, I think, in week 16 or 17. So that doesn't, Sean McVay, that's not a good look, man.
Well, this is interesting. My buddy emailed me this morning. I don't know where he saw it. I don't know how true it is, but this is what he emailed me this morning. The Patriots ran man coverage 62% of snaps this season, the highest man rate in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
In the Super Bowl, the Pats ran man 10% of plays, 90% zone, completely changed their defensive scheme. Probably helped in throwing Goff and McVay and the rest of that offense into disarray.
Who helped build that game plan? The new coach of the Miami Dolphins, baby.
Joe gave you first period over in the Tampa Bay Vegas game tonight, but our boy Chris Abbott is back, as he is every Tuesday, with his NHL Quick Picks. Let's take a look at that and see who Chris is on in tonight's NHL.
Thanks very much, Joe and Ninja. Well, the Super Bowl's in the books. We got a lot of people tilted, so I'm going to give you some NHL Quick Picks for tonight for those of you that lost money thinking the Patriots were going to lose. I didn't. There's 12 games to choose from tonight. Let's take a look at 3 of them. The New York Islanders are 7-1-2 in their last 10 games, and I've locked them in as a plus 135 money-line underdog in Boston. Now, the Bruins won the first meeting of the season 2-1 back in November, but this is a different Islanders team. Since that game, New York is 18-6-0-3, and they lead the Metropolitan Division. And their 52 goals against since that November 29th game, the fewest in the league by 11. Make no mistake, Boston's having a good year. I actually like them as a long shot futures pick. But right now, in this spot, at this price, the Islanders are too good to pass up. The whole thing has totally gone off the rails in Anaheim, where the Ducks have lost 16 of their last 18 games. They say it's so bad it's not even worth firing Randy Carlyle. They come to Montreal on one wing after being dismantled 6-1 by the Maple Leafs last night. And with that, I'm going to eye a minus 1.5 puck line bet on the Canadiens at plus 125. Anaheim has been outscored in its last 4 games, 23-5, all games in which their opposition cashed on the minus 1.5 puck line. Montreal has been on a hot streak of its own, going 7-2-1 in its last 10, and currently sits 3rd in the Atlantic Division. That's 2+ money plays, so why not make it 3? The red-hot Chicago Blackhawks are in Edmonton as plus 115 moneyline dogs, and I think this is a great spot to make some money at the Oilers' expense. Edmonton has lost 5 games in a row, during which time the Oilers' penalty kill is tied for second last in the league at 60%, while they're allowing just shy of 5 goals per game. Meanwhile, the Blackhawks are on a heater with 4 consecutive wins, and over that span, they lead the NHL in goals per game, are tied for 3rd in power play percentage, and now just sit 5 points out of a playoff spot in the West. That's it for this week in the NHL, guys. Keep an eye out for Joe Gallant's NBA picks on Thursday. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And that's it for me this week. I'm going to send it back to you guys and your bets.
Thank you very much, Chris. Great stuff, as always, from Chris Abbott there, capping the NHL.
The ball's on the guy, eh? 3 underdogs?
Yeah, I love it.
I will be parlaying the opposite of all of your picks, Chris.
And on the Thursday show, Chris will be my co-host as Johnny continues his week off after the NFL season now complete. So stay tuned on Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, at Guys and Bets on Twitter for that Periscope. Joe, thanks so much for joining us here today. And like I said, make sure you guys are following Joe on Twitter at JT FOZ. Always tweeting great stuff. And follow me, of course, at chalk_ninja. We got your UFC 234. We got your stuff for tonight. We got your Super Bowl 54 futures. And Joe's tactics about capping NBA point player props.
Jaylen Brown tonight, man.
Jaylen Brown tonight and Kemba Walker on Saturdays.
Yeah.
That's your 2 hot takes. Thanks for watching the show. We'll catch you on Thursday, and we'll leave you with our shark bite of the day. Thanks for watching.